so high.
Wow. You know, the other problem, we live in the Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
And so they're inviting all of the Western
A little bit.
civilization
Just getting the
down
plan right.
for the cloning.
If-
Because this is going to become a big thing. In San Francisco, they open up all of these large corporations for this cloning. And that's going to be a big problem.
Yeah, we kind of forecasted that. Remember we were talking about it. We said all.
Go ahead, baby.
All right, we're here in New York City, in Queens, out at Phil's Hotel. Well, Phil is in for a lecture coming up this Sunday. What's tomorrow's date? The 24th. This is one of the pioneers. We talk about Hilton Hotima. We talk about some of the old writers, Raymond Bernard, and all these people that wrote these previous books on metaphysics. Well, Phil is here, and he's writing new books, such as The Wounded Womb, and various other books that he's coming out with, and tapes. So we're sitting here with one of the masters who go way back, who started a whole movement going on, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. But here he is. I'm going to introduce him to you, Brother Phil Valentine.
Say the date and the year. I get so many tapes and I don't know what year it is.
Well, today is the alleged year 2007. The alleged year. Can you hear me from here?
Yeah.
You gotta make it a
Okay,
little
today
lighter.
is the 23rd of June,
I'm gonna
the
get
alleged year
so when you go a little
2007.
closer.
6467 in our calendar years, 10,003 in accordance with the Pharaoh or the Nasut Hor Aha, which is where we date ourselves back to 10,000 BC. So I'm here at your disposal. Thank you
All
for
right.
the invitation.
Okay. Now, I got a whole list of questions in my pocket, but I could just think of a lot of things off the top of the head. Number one, I want to talk a little bit about some of the exercises that you used to do in back at the Gathering of the Masters, the breathing exercises, because there's a lot going on with spraying, and I'm sure you're going to touch on that later. Spraying and the air quality in the inner cities. So what can a person do technique-wise to help their breathing, their consciousness, and their thinking?
It's a good question, especially when you're living in a soup of pollution like we are. And that's very difficult for you to be doing breathing exercises. Because breathing exercises are actually for enhancing the quantity of the prana, or the solar force, into the body. So increasing it while the air is polluted is not orthobiotic. So what you need to do first is to find the proper environment for that. I would suggest you go to a park, or try to go out by the ocean. Anywhere that the air would be at least sanitized by the movement and the currents. By the ocean, the movement of the ocean constantly allows the air currents to be moving, so that helps a lot. In forests and trees, they have a tendency to be able to absorb the poisons from the air. So do your therapeutic breathing in environments that are conducive and supportive of the lungs. If you want the tree of life within you here, which is denoted by the lungs as well as the spine, go around by trees so that there's an affinity. The next thing is that there's no improper way to breathe. The secret is that the body organizes the brain, or the brain organizes the body to breathe the way it needs to breathe, and to maintain the amount of oxygen going into the brain, to maintain sentience and the proper electrical signals to the body's organs and systems. So what you need to do is to breathe normally. I suggest that most people, when they go into the park, get a blanket and lie down on their backs. That way, all of the organs settle into their proper positions. When you lie down on your back, now your lungs and the rest of your organs are unimpeded by gravity. Human beings are strange creatures. We stand upright, and it does a lot to cause the gravity to weigh the organs upon one another, which means that the organs, starting with the lungs, the large intestines, the diaphragm, and so forth, are sitting on one another, and through the pull of gravity are being forced to compress. By lying down, you have the gravity now shifts, the weight distribution shifts, and in so doing, your body is back to what it's supposed to be in, and the organs are fitting in the right place. That's a good time to start breathing, because you breathe naturally at that time. Usually when you're wearing clothing, and I used to say to sisters, try not to have too much heaviness against their stomachs. A lot of them are wearing a very tight, crotch-fitting clothing, and what that does is it suppresses breathing, or forces your brain to breathe differently, to cause the body to breathe differently, which then impedes the amount of oxygen it needs to get to the lower regions, which is why our sisters have so many tumors and cysts, because of improper breathing as well. Lying on the back has a tendency to allow the body to breathe naturally. And then the best way to breathe is to breathe the way the body wants you to. And once you've found your rhythm, and the rhythm is now steady breathing as you go into yourself, you listen to the way your breath sounds as it's going inside of your nostrils and out. The first thing you'll notice is that one side of the nostrils are usually closed while the other is open. That's the body regulating the temperature, because consciousness asks for a specific regulation of temperature so that you can see or hear or feel on specific levels. Now, as you are breathing and you're listening and you're feeling your body, there are ways for you to normalize both sides of both hemispheres of the brain, as well as both sides of the body, electrical and the magnetic. Magnetic, of course, being the left side, the electric being the right side. There is what they call a rotational breath, and it's a very simple breath. And I think that this helps people to get started in the morning, especially those who wake up and you find that one side of their nostrils is always usually closed. The left side, if the nostrils on the left side is closed, that means the body needs a lot more electrical energies. Whatever's happening in the body needs the kind of electric yang force to move it, to get it to think, to move, to get the actions going. When people wake up with the right side of the nostrils open, I say that's a perfect time for them to take an enema, because that's the energy is high, the colon is active, and it's a good time to flush. The body will flush most of its contents during that time. When you wake up on the left side, it means that your body is shutting down the electrical force. It means there's too much yang force going in. It means your liver is overactive. All of the yang organs, with the liver being a yin, but the yang organs, like the open ones, these tendencies now, they're getting too much, so they shut you down, and they open up the left side so that the magnetic energy can come to calm you. Once your energy is calm, then you try to equalize the breath by opening up the nostrils. Best thing to do when you wake up in the morning, as you urinate and you get rid of the excess waters in your body, you take your, you get up, get to the mirror, blow your nose. That's the first thing you should do in the morning, gently. That way it opens up whatever passages that might have accumulated in the sinuses. After you've done that, if you have a boji pot, not a boji, escapes me now. It's a little neti pot. The neti pot is a good way for you to open up the nostrils. It's a little pot. It looks like a little lantern. You put a little bit of maybe, if you want to, wheat grass, and mix it, dilute it, and then tilt your head to the side. Place it inside the nostril and pour it into the nostril until it starts coming out the other side. And that way it will help to flush away any of the toxins that might have adhered in that area. This is good for people who have sinus problems, especially in the city with the pollution. And of course change to the other side and do that to the other side. And you'll find that a lot of people used to take cayenne and so forth. No good. Only mild things that are supportive. You know me, I'm not for stimulants. That's why, as a herbalist, I've stopped recommending herbs as a way to deal with your problems. You may take wheatgrass or any other small kind of water-based charged water. You may take small grain if you want. a very small amount of salt, sea salt. That also would help.
Let me stop you for 1
Yes.
second. Sea salt, exactly for the audience, people of view to take, what does sea salt actually do for the body?
Sea salt doesn't do very much. It's a stimulant as well.
Mhm.
That's why you have to use it as a medicinal. And that, again, I'm only showing you this because anything that stimulates the body robs the body of its essential vital force. It may stimulate the body in one end, but it depreciates the body's energy of the other.
Well, how does it depreciate?
Well, it depreciates because once you have put something in that's a concentrate, anything concentrated is a drug. Nothing that is the natural food for humanity is concentrated. Everything is diluted by distilled water.
Now, is that also the actual sea salt that's
Yeah.
in the sea
Yeah.
and the store-bought stuff you're saying? Okay.
Yeah, all of it.
Mhm.
Anything, the sea salt is essentially what your body's blood chemistries are made of. But it's reversed now, so you can't drink the sea salt because it's not, your body is no longer in tune with the earth. There's a reverse polarity on it now because of our consciousness programming, changing. But the salt is a stimulant. All salt is a stimulant because once extracted without its liquid, it becomes an irritant. And it may stimulate the body to give up some of its vital force. And in the stimulation, you feel invigorated. You say, whoa, salt made me feel this, and the herb made me feel that. But what you are doing is going into the stored energies that the organ and the system has for just such a reason, to remove a poisonous, toxic material that could damage the system. Anybody who takes in a lot of salt or uses it as a stimulant has very thick mucous membranes because the body builds up thick mucus linings to protect itself against the caustic substance of the salt. So you have to be very careful about using that. The other thing is, as I was saying, as far as going back to the breathing is concerned, cleansing out the nostrils, laying on the back first. And of course there's the rotational breath where you take a breath, you take your finger and placing the index finger against the first eye region, you close the nostril with the thumb, and in so doing you place your finger here and inhale through the nostril that is open. Once you've inhaled very deeply, very slowly, then hold the breath for a moment, change hands, close the nostril that you inhaled with, and exhale with the nostril that you had previously closed. Hold that for a moment, and then do the same thing in reverse. Inhale through the nostril that is open, then wait for a moment, close it, and blow out through the other one. And in so doing, what you're doing now is you're regulating the flow of energies, electromagnetic energies, magnetic and electric, and until such time as the body begins to regulate itself to the pattern that you are setting up by the motion of the exercise.
Wow. Okay. Now, I want to skip over for a minute and get into.
Could I ask a question?
Sure, sure you
Related to
can.
what he just spoke about?
Yes.
When you started talking about the air or the quality of air that we breathe and the things that are being sprayed, some people call them chemtrails. I don't know if that's what they are, but they make it foggy and you can't see the real sky. Talk about that. Is there a way that we can make that go away?
No.
Okay.
No. This is a military project, and it's done in order to circumvent the massive drain off of water that the sun's new explosions are causing. The Earth is moving perilously close and has been moved out of its orbit by the incoming Planet X. The Planet X has shifted the ecliptic of all the planets and takes it out of phase with the normal. And every 3,600 years, we're in one cycle. When the planet passes, all the planets, Mars, Jupiter, Venus, everything shifts slightly. So the shift to our planet has created conditions that are causing the natural or the normal around this time evaporation of water. It's not just them covering it up so that they can do things to us. They are seriously worried about the loss of water on this planet. In fact, the war in Iraq is not over oil, it's over water. And when the time comes and it's revealed to most people what's really going on, Iraq has an untapped, ancient ocean of fresh water they're calling it now Project Blue Gold. And that's what they're going after. Just like you're going to see in the next 3 to 5 years, because of the emergency conditions and situations, they're robbing all the water to put into the underground cities that they're now creating. The event of cataclysms that are getting ready to happen. So water is going to be the new gold over the next 10 years. So that the evaporation of the water supply and the attempt to circumvent its the rapidity, if there's a word for that, of the condensation is what the military is doing at the time, so that as not to alarm the people too much, especially in those people where lakes are prevalent and the lakes are drying up. I know all over Florida, lakes are drying up all over. So we're seeing it happen. The chemtrails do have a double purpose to them. There's not only barium in them, not only aluminum in them, but there's also foreign, unidentifiable DNA, which is also a twofold project. They're using that to not only deal with the sun's rays and reflect them back, but also to entrain the DNA of the old population, the one that they want to destroy. There's a mandate out by the governments of the world to eradicate the earth of 4.3 billion people.
And that was, I think, what was the name of that document?
You're talking about Global 2000.
Global 2000, right, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, you were going to say?
Oh, okay, so I want to jump for a minute into a little bit of sexuality in cases of men. What could strengthen a man's sexuality or should I say, weaken his impotency?
That's a good one. Well, the first thing is for women to allow men to be men again.
Mm-hmm.
That has completely taken the onus or the impetus or the how do I say it? The verve and the feelings of men being the hunters.
Mm-hmm.
When men don't feel like hunters and they feel more like prey, or they're not allowed to express themselves as men, the sexual potency is not there. In fact, it changes to anger. And it changes to all kinds of frustrated reactions that men undertake.
Mm-hmm.
And they go to seek either homosexuality, drugs, pornography, things that distract their ability to be men. And once we've returned the sense of manhood, initiation process, education, his purpose in a society, then sexuality would go up and more children would be there, and we would have that. That's one of the foundational things missing from the manhood sexuality. It's no longer, sex is no longer about the woman that you're with, that you feel that sense of self with. It's an objectification of your penis to an objectified whole. And it's it's more of you distancing yourself from the person and going into an act for self-gratification. And that's what's lost now.
If you had a training program
I did
for, I believe you did, that's right, for young folks who are first learning about tantra or sex, on how to love a woman,
yeah,
because we know today a lot of the complaints from what I get from a lot of young people, especially young ladies, about young men, and then some of the guys who's drinking a 40 or whatever, talking about he can't perform as well as he would like to. If you had a class or some kind of curriculum that would educate young folks on the tantras and the way to perform or act with a woman, what would you teach them?
Well, the first thing I do when I do teach young people is for them to seek the archetypal sense of self first. All of the trimmings that the society and the so-called movements of hip-hop and the different generational shifts of our consciousness, what has happened actually is they have blurred the lines between what is male and what is female, what is masculine and what is feminine. And what I would first do is to tell the sisters to stop wearing the pants, to stop acting like boys because it's unnecessary. They don't have any other identity figures for women. I'm talking to both sides. I would tell the brothers that the 40s are laced with chemicals to make sure that they don't deal with potencies or with sexual potency. It's about diminishing it. I would tell the sisters to get rid of the birth control pills because birth control pills force men to lose their sexual ardor. Reason for that is, in my book, The Wounded Womb, I speak to the fact that over the last 30 years of feminism, when the pill was first introduced to free women, what people didn't know was that when women began taking the pills, their sweat glands began to change the natural pheromonic signatures of sexuality. And what it did was, it began to override that and create conditions in the male that the male could not understand for a long time. What it did was to change the signature frequencies that would normally attract a man to a woman and cause the man to not have the same kinds of feelings towards the woman. The reason for that is, once a woman took the pills and her chemistry was changed, the nature in the man shifted to that of a woman who was already pregnant. So the experiments that they did on the rhesus monkeys, when they began, one male, I forgot what his name was, but it's in the book. One male was had 3 mates, and these 3 mates they were happy, they were sexually involved, and they were natural and normal in their environment. Well, the females were given these shots or injections of progesterone, which essentially is what the pill is made of. And all of a sudden, the little male monkey didn't want to be bothered with them anymore. He began to go off. He began to get irritated. He began to masturbate. And as soon as they took them off of it again, he was normal again. So what we found out was that the reason why they introduced the Viagra was to override what the chemistries of the pill had done for the last 30 years in the males, to give them something in order for them to get back into the stream of procreation. Yes?
How long of a time after the lady had taken the pill would...
Sorry. Yeah?
Yes. If a woman that took the birth control pill and she did cease, how long would it be before the male-female relationship became, quote-unquote, normal?
Oh, okay, good question. That would be about 60 days, 30 to 60 days. 30 days to cleanse the material, change the diet, and then another 30 days just to be safe in order to make sure that she's back on her right cycle. Because the progesterone that they put in these pills are to regulate it to a 30-day, 21 to 27 to 28-day cycle. This guy, John Locke, who was actually a Catholic, who invented the pill, he invented it in order to regulate the menstrual cycle around a Catholic view of what a woman should be menstruating at.
The effect that the pill had on the male's penis, when would that dissipate?
Like I said, within about 30 to 60 days.
Okay.
And it didn't really have it on his penis, it had it on his olfactory. The olfactory smell is extremely important in the sexual interplay. That's why most of your deodorants that they are now putting out with the Axe and so forth has bull pheromones in it. And so it has skunk, bull, and I believe it has, yeah. These pheromone signatures are what, that's why they tell you it's about reacting to the female. There is a specific type of odor that will immediately turn on a woman. And there's a movie out about that where this guy puts something, the new movie Ocean's 13, they showed that. And yes, you could do that. But they it take about maybe 30 to 60 days. You have to be eating Ito food. And
What is alcohol?
Ito, well, you know, it's a Jamaican way of saying natural food.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
To piggyback on, when did the in the Islamic society, when did the use of women covering themselves and being protected against those pheromones from other men turn into a means of, or looks like a form of oppression on the woman?
All religion turns what was natural into an oppression.
Or based on oppressing sexual energies, in other words?
Well, no, that's not the original reason why the women covered themselves like that. Women today have become numb to their natural sense of self because their bodies have created almost a psychic film against the overt world that was essentially protected. They protected themselves against at one time. What happens that the practice of purda, or veiling, was actually what the ancestral women did in order to protect themselves against the environment. And women who cloistered themselves were essentially protecting themselves from a hostile environment. What that turned out to be, as a society goes from one state of trauma to a state of a little bit more normalcy and balance, is the carryover of certain traditions that essentially when a woman who wanted to be protected or a woman who wanted to focus more on, being veiled, it turns into something that we could, enjoy and embrace. But what happens now is with the coming of Muhammad, the veiling, which was again based upon an old custom of women in order to protect themselves from going through any kind of ovulatory practice. During the time, ovulatory process, not practice. During the time when the Earth's environment began to degenerate, so did the infrastructural integrity of the body, and thus women could no longer ovulate on command. They were doing it based upon the system, the planetary systems that were in place after the big trauma. So the moon began to take over and command the body where the mind lost its power over. So when she lost that enormous power to be able to center herself and to bring a life-giving egg into her womb so for it to fertilize, when she lost that, the planet's energy, she fell victim under that. And that's what all this fall from grace and the whole thing, that's all this is wrapped up inside of the eschatologies of the myths of ancient cultures. So when she lost that, part of that deterioration process was the bleeding. She kept making the eggs constantly. It was almost like she was put on automatic. And it's not supposed to be like that. She's supposed to make it when certain conditions are put into place, started by the male, and through rituals that she and the mothers would do together, would then focus the egg in a specific spot, and then in her nuptial bed, or the time she would do that, she would then have sex, and then the child would be there. That's how you create the way. But to say that today is like, get out of here, that's a myth. No, women were in command of their bodies and knew when they needed to make an egg. Because if you knew what happened in making an egg, you would say, well, wow, no wonder cancer and all these things happen to women. Because every time she makes an egg, she tears a hole right through the membrane for that egg to have it. And she has to wait 7 to 8 days to heal. That's when she's feeling the cramps. It's because she's bleeding inside. She's ripping a hole in that area. The egg gets placed, and now she has to heal. That now takes an enormous amount of estrogen, and if estrogen gets locked in there in the form of estradiol, then she's creating a cancerous condition. So the more she bleeds, the more menstrual cycle she has, the more potential she has for cancers. That's why the African women didn't have cancers. They were having babies. They were being women. Today, women are not being women. They want to be career people, and they want to follow Oprah, which is why they want to follow, mostly following each other in a single conga line right into the doctor's office.
Question? Talking about like things, like sexual things with these children. Like, what are the effects of wasting sexual energy, like just constant releasing, ejaculating, as opposed to opening up our kundalinis and our microcosmic orbit and all of that? Because that's what it seems like a lot of, especially all of the messages, all the music is promote sex and just promote the constant release. But just like you're saying with the, as far as the ovaries and the tearing up of the bodies of the women, it seems like the men tear up our bodies as well by constantly releasing, as opposed to harnessing and building ourselves up with that energy. I mean, that's the most powerful energy in the universe that creates life, and we constantly spit it out.
That's right. So you have to know the difference between being a king or rehearsed and being raised as a king and raised as a slave. So they used to train the king, the young men. We had to go through the process because at that time we had 3, 4, 5, maybe 5, 6, or 7 wives, with 1 or 2 wives being the primary ones chosen to have children for the legacy. These 3 or 4 or 5 wives, he could not satisfy or be with all these women and have his sanity. So he was trained how to breathe and to change or convert the downward flow of the energy into an upward flow of the energy, to be able to take her energy, of which she has an inexhaustible supply of, in order to feed what is called the lotus. And feeding the lotus takes different types of breathing exercises, subversive breathing, in other words. Sometimes when you notice when you want to breathe, when you inhale, the stomach usually goes because the diaphragm is inhaling. You can tell it if you go right. But in understanding how to deal with a system called karitsa in certain things, or to feed the lotus, you have to change the breathing pattern. In other words, instead of what your stomach would rise, you pull in when you breathe in. Go counter to it, so that you begin to train yourself to lock off the energies at the time that you would feel the need to ejaculate. So there are ways for you to be able to breathe and to maintain the sexual pleasure, because a woman is a pleasure machine. She can go forever and ever, amen. But what happens is, she can, but she's fed from another source than we are. Our source is limited. It has to deal with that energy. We have to deal with the limitation.
Being that you're in that area, what it sounds like it might be leading to as a question is the question of polygamy, or what is it for women? I think it's called polyandry. And I have a lot of brothers ask me about these things, and I'm not a polygamist, so I can't answer them the way, only from what I've read. But if you have information on that subject, can you please give us some of that?
Well, I am a polygamist, if that's what it's called. To me, it's just being married. You know, we put all these names on it. It's ridiculous. It's an African way of living. 99% of the world is polygamous.
But let me rephrase my question just a little bit. In modern day society, dealing with the consciousness that we have in these inner city areas and even in the lecture circuit, a so-called high conscious lecture circuit, how do we deal with that situation?
Yeah, well, this is not a modern day, it's a modern day.
Or whatever we want to call it, or degrade.
Yeah. I know we're dealing with situations today, but I don't live today. You know, I'm passing through, and I'm watching what's happening. The world, in fact, the universe is polygamous.
Yes.
And the sun with the planets is a polygamous relationship. We have that relationship in Africa, in Asia. The whole world was polygamy, or what they call polygamy for the Catholic Church, until the Catholic Church came and changed it. Now, the 1-for-1 is good if that's the choice between the two, and that's what it is. It's necessary. But to maximize the seed, it is always necessary to have more than one wife, so that in the event that anything happens to her, or she's not fertile, you have the other wife. She would have the children. Doesn't mean you love her less. It just means that how there's a distribution of work. And as a polygamist, when I was living in those that kind of bond, you know, everybody did their own thing. You know, the man is there to empower each woman to become independent in what she does. Polygamies don't work because we are not empowering the woman to have her own, and she being autonomous, though her loyalty and her focus be on the center of the family. You know, the family, the man is supposed to provide an individual environment that is autonomous for each woman. And he can't do that, or he doesn't do that. And you need a lot of money, you need support, you need power to do that. And each child, he takes a day or two to be with each woman. And each woman is a rotation back and forth. When they all come together and they group together, there's never a time the children are without a mother. So it is totally African, and every animal, every higher species, the male has 3 or 4. The strongest male, to maximize the strongest
With the
seed.
alpha, I guess
The alpha
they call it.
male always has 3 or 4, and he always fights off the young alpha male, who's a seed. Why? Because this is the necessary part that women don't understand. Inside of the man, he is programmed to forward the specific mandate of creation. He is the one given the thing to be fruitful. And that mandate is locked in his DNA as a signal. I must duplicate myself. I must see myself. I must look at myself duplicated. He knows, but the woman learns to know, what she learns is that, okay, I have the instrument for your duplication. What will you give me? What will you do to be able to, in other words, what will you provide for me? The thing that I need. I need to nest, I need to feel secure, I need your loving, I need to be loved. What will you provide for me so that I can give you what you want? A continuation of your seed. Because remember, no matter who it is that impregnates her, her mitochondria will continue. If you don't impregnate, you don't continue. So the mandate for the male is procreate. But it is not controlled today. It is not given a societal and social structure, a cultural structure, which it had. But no longer today, because essentially now with the way the Illuminati set things up, it is to dysfunction the ability for you to carry on the mitochondria of the black female in as many places as you can, in as many bodies as you can, so that you can maximize the potential of bringing the Messiah here. And the problem is that women have locked off the womb because they've been told that they don't need to do that anymore, which is why most of them are now suffering from all of the reproductive diseases that they have. Now again, I'm not here to try to tell people, okay, get ready, run out and be polygamous, or forget what you're doing. This whole society, this whole environmental, this whole consciousness paradigm must crash first. And when it comes back, when all of these delusional foundations of safety and security are gone, women will come back to themselves, because that's their natural nature, to cleave and to seek to be with the male. And it's the natural nature of the male to go out, to conquer, to provide, to protect. If you don't allow him to provide and protect and to be a man, he will turn from a provider and a protector into a predator. And that's exactly what he has done. You've changed the black man from a provider and a protector into a predator, because you've taken away the instruments and the environmentality of his manhood.
Should we blame ourselves, or should we have a discussion on the historical applications of that, how that took place? What should we?
No blame. No more blame. I don't blame anybody. I don't even look at blaming white people anymore. They got their own problems. They're white.
Exactly.
I know that because I've come from them. So, I've chosen and I've been, I have royal lineage that I was told after my mother, and my, bless her soul, and she's with the ancestors now. She went with the Jesuits and with the Mormons and found my lineage. It goes back to King Philip of Spain, the court of Marie Antoinette, and all those crazy people who fled to the West Indies. And I have that whole thing, the Germans, I have German, everything, mixed and appropriate. But then I have the Africans. I have the Fulani. I have all these beautiful Africans that came there in Africa too. My grandmothers, my aunts, they're all black and different colored hues. And then, I have the Indian so I'm a mutt. I'm a racial mutt. So I know I can talk about white people. because I was raising with him. So
Wasn't
I
it
know-
an Egyptian god though?
Mut?
Mut?
I'm talking about with them mutts and hearts, 57 varieties. But I'm not. I don't blame anymore. It's not. It's a loss and a useless use of your intelligence and your intent. I do call you out if you don't come to the point where you realize your faults and are doing something to attempt it. And I know there's white people out there trying to say, well, yeah, we really royally fucked up. We did, and we know we did. And I mean, I can't begrudge them to not speak to me and blame them. But I'm not going to be, I'm not supporting the more crazy amongst them, because I know that their hostility and their fear of genetic annihilation is what drives them. That's manifest destiny. That's what manifest destiny is. Fear of genetic annihilation. So I can't blame a man for his desperation and the knowledge that he will disappear in the next 2 or 3 millennia. Yes, bro.
Yes, one of the reasons why I'm here is the brother asked me to come here to ask you questions based off of what he just talked about. Me and him talking length at different times. But, I've been with my wife since I was like 14 years old. We have like 4 children. And coming into fruition of knowledge of self and other things that winded up coming my way, I didn't know that I was going to take on the calling of something like polygamy. And I took on a second person. I've changed to the point where I felt that was a part of my purpose and a part of my destiny. The problem is when I don't know if it's a problem, but when I spoke to my wife about it, she didn't agree.
Of course not.
However, by that time it was too
Too
late.
late.
I already had, a woman was already pregnant.
Right.
And, dealing with the situation, I went to many different places to try to find a way of balance. There's not too many ways or trained thoughts or schools or people that we can go into the community and say, well, these are set ways that you should practice in order to have things in a balance. As far as financial means, that's okay. But as far as balancing the women out and having sanity at the same time, that's and in this society, today's society, that's when I'm having problems, and I believe other brothers that have not been honest and truthful like I've been are probably having problems. So I mean, can you address that?
It's like trying to, just as you are, trying to go underwater and live. You're not equipped for the environment.
Yes.
The environment is definitely not for you. This is not a society for polygamy. I learned that. I practiced it with my second wife, and we did it the African way. She chose the other wives, but it's not ready. Today, the state is the father and the husband of women today. So the state dictates, which is a feminist principle, that you cannot have control. A man with that much control over that much power, because when you have more than one woman, you are powerful.
Phil, is that light on right there?
Yes. You have an enormous amount of power because you have a power and an enormous ability to love, which is something that they don't want you to do. They want you to lust, not love. And what happens is, when you have women who love you, and you love them, you're building a nation. And you understand what that means, and that too much power in a man's hand. Remember, you can't come in and take a woman's child if a man is running the family. You can't come in and do what you normally would do by law, because a man would kill you if you come walking inside and say you're going to take the child because you're not raising the child correctly. Only in a feminized state can the state come in and own the child. So we don't have that. We have not yet risen to the place where we are giving women the sense of safety that they would feel to be with us. So as men, we've failed. in that sense. We can't do what we do as men until we have gained their trust. And I remember, if you remember in some of my lectures, I said most black men don't want to bleed anymore for what they believe in.
Sure thing.
And if you don't want to bleed, how's your woman going to respect you?
Mm-hmm.
If you're not going to stand up and shout at injustice and to show what it is to love a black woman,
Mm-hmm.
then what do you deserve? Except their scorn and their contempt, and well deserved.
Exactly.
So until you have convinced a woman that you're ready to bleed for her, and you're ready to die for a cause that she could believe in and support you in, then what's the sense of even practicing? Because you don't have the support base, and you need that support base. And that support base has always been the chair, and the chair is Isis, Ast. The king always sat on the throne of Ast, which means that was his support. If you don't have her support, if you don't have Ast with you, then that's the sense. And again, I'm going to teach tomorrow that the very crown of Kemet, the red crown, was a female. Because in the language of the Medu Neter, the original way you said king was Nesut. And every place you see the T means female. The real name for Pharaoh was Nesu or Nesut Biti. The Nesu meant king, but Biti meant of the bee. And if you notice, the crown always had this little thing sticking out of it. That was the bee antenna. Because we work together, not as a hive, but as an organized society where each person worked to build the better for each one of us for the greater good of the whole. So we have not resurrected our queens, and they have not yet ascended to accept the place that they are as queens. And our support, they don't lead. If they lead, we cannot follow, because basically we have surrendered our manhood. We are being led. And now we have surrendered our manhood because we're looking for clothes and Timberlands and chasing all kinds of 40s and nonsense. So there are no leaders, no male leaders. You only have essentially people who work for the overseer. And he has a little bit more money, so he looks like he has power, but he's powerless. He's a eunuch as a man. Until you have a real man who knows what it is to be a man and doesn't take any joke or any kind of nonsense, and essentially loves the woman benevolently, but puts her back into place where she is as a support system instead of trying to lead. If she does not if he does not surrender himself to her wisdom and listen to her before making a final decision, then he's a fool, because she has insight to things that he may not be able to see. So you must consult the woman as part of your foundation. And then once that decision is made, she surrenders to that decision and follows it. And what has happened to us as men is that we have not been allowed to fail. Let me say that again. Black men are not allowed to fail. You fail to learn.
That's right.
And with your support, you gain and go greater. But today, you're born with 2 strikes. You're on a swing that looks like it's high and inside, and you don't have the ability to those other 2 swings. So unless you fail and learn while you fail, and you have a good woman that supports you in that failure to know that this is just a learning step, you ain't got nothing. You don't have a society. That's the problem. Psycho-spiritually and psychologically, we are still Willie chipped. And until we delete the chip, the programming from that chip, through trauma, because it's going to be traumatic to delete the Willie chip. It's going to be, because your whole body, your whole DNA, your whole somatic DNA body is made of Willie chip information. And so you have to completely die and be reborn again. So that until that time, and you have young sisters out here who want to do with polygamy. There's some of them saying, well, yeah, okay, well, let's try to see what you do. And we fail, because we are not trained. We don't know what it is to be a man. And until we sit down and we talk with our sisters, and again, the thing is, another thing that brothers do when they fail, and I've noticed this, is that they don't talk. They don't have the meetings, the regular meetings. You're supposed to have regular meetings when you're a polygamist and when you're dealing with multiple wives. If you're not giving her instructions consistently every day, a woman runs on instructions. She doesn't run on creativity, which is what you do. You are the problem solver. She is the problem stater. And unless you learn to solve problems and know that when a problem is there, and they're coming to you and telling you, listen, this, and you're ignoring it, then you're a fool. You don't need to have more than one wife. Matter of fact, you may not need to have a wife until you get your head together. Yes.
As a doctor, Phil, what would you prescribe personally for this brother right here in the situation that he might be in? A person with 2 wives, can afford to handle the 2 wives, and beginning to learn the real science of, get into the deep science of polygamy, and the wives you chose may be someone who was raised in Western world.
Yeah.
And now how do we, what would you prescribe for a person like that?
Well, I couldn't even use that word. That word is copywritten by the enemy. So, prescriptions, you know, my advice to you would be that unless the sisters get together and they love each other like sisters and respect each other as women, then nothing will happen. If they think as far as possession is concerned, because that's the thing that reversed. Remember, under Willie Chipism, what happened was the whole African sense of the feminine principle being a communal principle shifted. She was taught not to be dependent anymore, but independent. And she taught her son to become dependent. That was what did the change. The male is independent because he's a problem solver. He has to think independently, act independently, and he doesn't have time to be thinking along certain emotional lines that the feminine principle needs to, because if he doesn't be alert, he isn't alert to protect the family's screwed. So there's things that he don't even want to think about, things that he won't even remember she said, because it's not necessary for him to remember. She'll remember it for him. And what has happened is, because our sisters have been shifted because of the fear that the programming has done, to march out the strongest of the males, watch him degraded and then drawn and quartered in front of her, to make her know, and program, especially when she's pregnant, to show that and to transmit that image chemically to the baby. When you do that, and you've done that for 460 years of generational cycles, our sisters, just as much, are damaged because now they must think independently, because it's a mandate of the DNA. It's been programmed into the DNA. And for you, you're so dependent, you now are looking to see whether or not the society is okay with what you're doing. And that is not a man. You mold society. You make sure society moves to your will. And if you're not given the chance to exercise that will, then it's not going to work. Talk to the sisters independently and ask them for their cooperation. Because most of it is that we think that the sisters will move based upon commands, based upon certain types of things that you do. No. You have to rephrase what you're saying. Sometimes the same thing you say rephrased, you can't try to intellectually talk to your queen. A woman is not moved by her thoughts, she's moved by her feelings. So you must switch your words to enact feelings. So it's through her feelings that she thinks, and it's through your thoughts that you feel. So our polarities are shifted. So we're trying to get her to think along the lines of, we can't work that way, that's ridiculous. A woman is not a man, not by nature, not by nothing. She is nothing like a man. The problem we have is we try to talk to her like a man would and think the reasoning like a man, and we get it like that, it's not going to work. No. You have to know what a woman really is. And I don't mean who she is, what she is first. And understand that. And that's something I'm not going to speak about in front of sisters, because then it just gives everything away. I only speak to my young male brothers.
But don't we want to work together?
But you know, I was headed
only
there though.
when you have a master, who is doing things that you don't know that he's doing.
Ready too.
No, but I was headed that way. Now, I don't know why I can't remember this word. It keeps losing me. For women who have multiple husbands.
Yeah,
and polyandry, right. Now, after all that you have said about women, how does that affect a polyandrous?
It doesn't affect her at all. Essentially, the polyandry was practiced by our ancestors as well. But it was practiced within familial settings. In other words, the males were related. In that way, there was no discrepancy within the womb. If you have unrelated male, the sperm begins to fight inside the vaginal canal. And the children come out like that, confused. Because two disparate electrical sperm signatures fight one another. Because the mandate, what did I say the mandate was? To duplicate myself. See? Every now and then there's a punctuation at the end of the sentence that's relative. So what happens essentially is the sperm of the DNA and the electrical signatures of brothers didn't fight. So it didn't matter who was born, the child would be of the same lineage. So she would have 2 or 3, if the brothers were there, they would have 1 wife. And polygamy, polyandry practiced that way was safe and was in tune. But if you have 2 disparate male, 2 bulls, and they're not related, that's chaos. That's madness. That's like trying to put 2 suns inside of a solar system.
That's the problem.
When you say related, are you talking brothers?
Brothers, cousins or brothers, first cousins and brothers.
That sounds biblical.
Well, biblical is us, isn't it? We wrote the Bible.
Right.
Minister,
Yes,
I
brother.
was watching Minister Farrakhan one day, and he said that the woman gives the gift of polygamy. It's totally up to her to be in a submission in order to allow the man, if the man is in his correct state.
Yeah, but that force automatically, a woman is one who adapts. That's the problem with the society today. Once you give the woman the power, she adapts to the conditions. Men don't. Men change conditions. That's why there hasn't been any change since Oprah has been. Oprah got $40 billion and we haven't moved anywhere. See, now she goes and she sets up what? A school for what?
Women.
Girls. So it's like nobody else needs schools. But what I'm saying is women don't change things. They're not the changers. They're support structures. By their nature, they will support the institution in place. The institution is placed right now is subliminal sodomy and subliminal slavery. So give them the money, give them the power, give them the so-called equality, which is an illusion, and they will support that matrix. They won't change it. Very few of them change it. That's because they usually have a man with them. So don't expect any changes from the society. You have to change it. Period. Yes, brother. Oh, so
Yeah.
you were saying about polyandry.
Yes, yes.
What was the question? again?
I would like to understand why, if a woman is very emotional, but I think you pretty much described everything
Yeah.
that I need to know with the brother situation and all like that, so
Yeah.
I kind of understand that.
Yeah, it's
But what
very-
would be the nature of her wanting something like that?
her nature of wanting something like that? Probably curiosity. Most women wouldn't want that. It would not be something unless it's tribal, it's cultural. Women who understand that, they're going to have fights. Listen, today, women who are in polygamous conditions and situations, oh, forget it.
So
It's
are you
crazy.
saying that men have a stronger, lower nature than the female may have?
No. Oh, no. Ooh, women can get raunchy. women, in fact, if you want to know what's going on, women could be the most dangerous, entity, an enemy you could ever have. In fact, what you need to do is to learn that the whole system of combat in the Western culture today is based on the woman's psyche. What do you think all this so-called stealth, what is it, special forces, all of that is, sneak up, kill you in your sleep, sneak out. Think about it. The whole psyche for war today is based upon the female principle of combat, which is to kill you while you sleep, or to kill you when you're not looking, or to kill you when you're unexpecting it. The male principle of combat was, we'll meet on the field, the better man will win. And in that way, you always had a stronger sperm cell, a stronger, because the males who won would then get the chance to procreate.
And we're going to stop right there and take a little break. So there's water or whatever for a few minutes. All right.
Okay,
What was that question, sister?
We start up with first. I just want to say this before you
Okay.
make your
Go ahead,
questions.
Bill.
I'd like to get a chance just to zoom in on my queen's book, 7 Steps to Healing and Wellness, using the Kabbalion as your guide.
Wow.
Yeah.
What is the Kabbalion?
The Kabbalion is a book written by our ancestors, ancient book, where it speaks about the 7 principles of life, starting with mind and ending with gender. And the author of this book was said to be Jehudi, who to the Greeks became Hermes Trismegistus, the thrice great. And the 7 principles written in the Kabbalion deals with from mind to correspondence to cause and effect to rhythm, all of these different principles that make up or constitute life. She says that using essential oils in conjunction with these 7 principles can help you to normalize and to bring the proper frequency balance back into the body. So I suggest to those who may have the chance to view this, that you get this book. You can go up to the lulu.com, or better yet,
You don't have any copies, Bill, would you?
no, I just got this one.
Okay.
What I would suggest you do is, if you wish to get it, you can go up to, you go to UKS, www.u as in unity, K as in king, S as in, I guess, serpent,
Sex.
or sex. UKSnow, NOW.org. That will put you directly into our university website. We have a university called the University of Commission Sciences, where we give courses in metapsychology, classical naturopathy, and medunetia. My queen, this is she. You'll see a picture of her in the back. She's beautiful. And she's this book is excellent. It's well written, and it's very, very strong. You just go to uksnow.org, and right there on the home page is a what do you call that when you switch this to another site? When you hit the button, a link. I'm not good with the computers. There's a link that's right there. You can open it up. You'll see that the book is right there. Just hit the link, and it'll put you into lulu.com, Lulu.com. And if you go to lulu.com and just type in Nalani, the name is Nalani, Nalani. Just type in that or Dr. Nalani, and it'll put you right into that. You can order it. The book is $17.95, I believe, and it would be a very good addition to any of your conscious books. And I suggest, if you can, to please spread the word. Help Queen. Appreciate it.
Yes.
Ashe. Yes.
Okay, we were talking about the subject of, what was it again? When the woman has a polyandry.
Strategies of war.
It's a mental block, I'm telling you. And you gave some good points about the strength of the woman, but another point I want to make about the lower nature, I basically want to talk about the sexuality part of the lower nature. It seems as though that the man's sexual energy or sexual drive, instinct, which I guess is the instinct to procreate,
Yeah.
is much stronger.
It is dry because he holds the mandate.
Right.
Okay? She holds the Ethereum.
Well, see, with that in mind, for her to have 2 husbands, where's that,
Again, the drive again, the mandate to move forward would always be in the male, to have that child. Now, in societies or in cultures where the women were either decimated in such a way that there were only certain women that were there, and again, that usually happened in certain societies that were devastated based on what I was saying a couple of 100,000 years ago. The human strain went through some great traumas, of which we still hold in our consciousness. But if there were pairings or survivors where there's only one woman, and the brothers were actually, and the tradition melted into a normalcy where there was a practice of polyandry, then you would have the 2 brothers or cousins that would be sharing this one sister, one woman, that would be the husband to that family, 2 husbands to that family. Now, the mandate to go ahead and be fruitful would end at the point where he ejaculates inside of her, in the mental part of it. Whenever, however, them not knowing which one of the children belongs to them, they both raise it as their own, you see. So it doesn't matter. Her DNA goes forward, but the two males' seed also forwards. Because it doesn't matter which one actually is one. It is not the ideal, but it is usually, that's a survival matrix that is set up. Today you have women who have no man completely with one or two children. That's not a family.
No,
It's
not
what
at
they
all.
call a survival unit.
Yeah. The reason why I asked that question, because I'm reading some books on the Amazons, the big, strong women who supposedly ran tribes of women, and I got to a point in a book called The Great Cosmic Mother. There's a section in there where they say that the Amazons actually cut off a limb of the man, and that would increase his sexuality. How true is that?
Well, anytime you decrease the blood flow to one area and force the blood area to another, that's, if you see in certain tribes, they would tie off the waist, or they would tie off the neck, or they would do something to decrease the blood flow to different extremities. Of course, the blood will localize in different areas, or at least push to the area where the blood would be saturated in the area of the penis. But, we've kind of locked into all kinds of outlandish ways to increase our sexuality, when the women today are conditioned that, size matters, when the matter is that it's the size of the love and the time you take, and the size of the time you deal with, and the quality of the time. Now, of course, there are ways for you to bring a woman to any kinds of pleasures, and I teach that as well. But I've heard sisters say that they have brothers that will have just these unnaturally small penises, and that it was like, oh no, I'm going to have to tell this man goodbye, and I feel sad, but I'll let him, I don't want to disappoint him, completely destroy him, and come out of the experience completely changed in their idea about what it is to have sex. Because of course a man like that would have to learn compensatory techniques in order to please a woman. But be that as it may, you can enhance sexuality by, there's a way you could breathe more size into your organs, because essentially you're made up of water, and this nonsense about taking in protein and so forth to get that blood stretched, you can use water as a way to, over a period of a month, put size in your penis. That's what the ancestors did. But right now,
Now, is that a visualization technique?
No, it's not. Using water. You know what really builds muscles? Water. You're 65 to 95% water. There's no protein that's going to build anything. That's a myth. Water builds size and muscle, because this muscle is made up of 75 to 80% water. So there are different ways you could make muscle. You could tear it and have it repair itself, or you can have it build itself up, and then you're toned, you're more solid. You see?
Well, brothers, we're always, no matter how big we are, we always want to make it bigger.
Right.
That's how it is.
Yeah.
So what are those techniques that we could actually use to with water?
Well, there are ways for you. This has to be a thing where you're going to go into a meditation. You're going to have to go into a meditation. And I'm not going to teach that online. This is something that I teach the brothers, and I teach them essentially that what they have is fine. Stop worrying about what it is that they don't have. That's the problem. You come in there feeling what you don't have, and then you bring your inadequacies to the moment, and it's felt.
As far as as far as the water is concerned, I mean, what you're saying is basically like that Japanese experiment where they labeled the water and they said things to the water in order to make it come into fruition into your body.
There you go.
Okay, so.
Yeah. Yes. That's exactly it. Water is a conscious medium that is just conscious as itself. You can make it conscious of itself. See, that's the difference. Water is conscious as itself, because that is what it is. It's an element. It's one of the primary elements of existence. But mind changes it to become conscious of itself. So programming the water to increase the size is one of the secrets.
That's what's up.
Yes.
I run into a lot of women, and they right now they're doing a lot of surgery of breast reduce
Enhancement and reduction.
reduction. Does water work the same?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can grow breasts. I remember one of my teachers, Dr. Moore. He was funny. He said, all you women going out there worrying about getting your breasts all pumped up with all artificial stuff, first thing you need to do is get yourself a man. Have him rub them every day. I
What you can do, I must.
I must develop my bust, yeah. Yeah, that's one of it. But again, that's your consciousness doing it. It's not just the exercise, but the consciousness raised by. In fact, women can, in a sense, when they feel like they've become pregnant, automatically a psychosomatic pregnancy starts them to swell up. So it's in the mind, and the programming, the water being programmed to do that, with your mind focused in that area over a period of 3 to 7 days. See, I'm giving here a lot more information than I want to. Can do that as well. Yes, sister.
So even women who have had a breast reduction, they can still
They
grow?
can still do
Okay.
it. Because it's fat. And what it would do is, if you're doing that, the body would just start following your commands and start channeling more fat to the
That's
area.
true. That's true. That's true.
If you have each year or each month you have the cells grow and they change, and you can actually change the replication of the cells when they do replicate to be in the conditions that you want it to be.
Every 7 days, every 7 months, every 7 years.
Theoretically.
So you
Every
can grow,
7 hours.
so you can grow a new liver, a new lung,
You
Yeah,
can grow a
that-
whole new
a
body.
new body.
I'm doing it.
Actually, we do, right?
I'm doing it. I left here looking like hell.
Yeah, you Phil, the last time you were here, you look
Yeah.
older the last time you were here than you do now.
Right, because I was stressing out. My father had just passed, my mother just passed, everything was just happening. They just took everything. And it was interesting because I saw myself getting that way, and I knew what the secrets were and what I was doing to myself. So I had to shift my focus after I settled, and then now I changed my programming from that feeling of loss to back to recapturing myself. So that's all you have to do. Stop thinking it.
What's the deal with you've been teaching this for, since I've been watching your tapes, 97 or something like that, 96. As far as the law of attraction, allowance, and
Secret.
not the secret, but what you were teaching, Bobby were teaching, and others were teaching as far as that law of attraction, and as a man thinketh, so he is, or so she is. Speak more on that, because that correlates to what you're talking about, changing the conditions of the water, the cells to the body, the environment around you. It just comes full circle.
You're hit right on a point. The law of attraction essentially is taking place every time you take a breath. See, that's the thing you've lost. You think of something, the condition, what they did by releasing the secret was to destroy, or at least to minimize and to trivialize where humanity is getting ready to go. And to have them focus that natural energy that will begin to grow in them as they go through, or they get ready to head into the dark rift, to inherit their next bodies. If your focus is on material things, which is what the secret is actually pushing you to do, you're not actually focusing inward, which is what that magnetic energy is supposed to make you want to do. Focus inward, outward, not outward in, which is essentially what they're doing in the secret. They're telling you to use your focus in order to gather material things. So, you can create the conditions immediately. That's the thing, to create the conditions to magnetize, to attract. But then what are you going to do once they come? See, the universe just waits for the impeccable question to answer it. How are you forming the question? What have you prepared the way for an answer for? In other words, when you ask the question and you have an idea of what the answer would be, what have you done to prepare the place that you are in order for that answer to come? Have you released the question after you've asked it and lived the answer so that the answer comes? See, you don't wait for the answer and then say, okay, I'm jumping aboard. If you are not already the answer to the question that you're asking, then you'll never receive the answer. You ain't gonna receive it through asking Jesus, Allah, Yehuda, whoever. If you don't know that you are the answer, the center of the universe, and your own universe, then nothing will be answered, and you will probably luck upon a lot of things.
I am that I am.
Yeah, well, I am that I am will be. See, I am that I am is stagnant. It's I am that I will be.
Excuse me.
Yes, beloved.
I wanted to ask the question when you were talking 3 or 4 topics ago. So I'm going to revert back to it, which is the woman that has the baby with the relatives, the brothers, the cousin, or whomever. Is it a myth today that gives the children, they make them bad or bad seeds or something, you know, you become, it's a taboo. It's not to be done today. So why is that? Why
You're
is
talking about between family members,
Yes.
the female and the male.
I don't know what I'm talking about. I just know that somebody says that you're not.
Yeah, they're talking about what they call incest, or
Yes.
what they call
Yes, that's the word.
that's not incest. Though, if you remember the purity of the strain, the blood is no longer the blood song. We no longer harmonize with the blood song of the universe. The blood harmonizes with the spheres, the music of the spheres. And if your blood is not in intonation and harmonic resonance, then it's outside of that resonance, and therefore it wreaks havoc in the DNA.
Divine resonance.
When a bee is buzzing,
Mhm.
that's a resonance. So energy does the same thing. And when it's resonating, when the two resonations come together at just the right frequency so they blend, then you have a harmonic. So there's harmony. So there is not, the blood today is so diluted, and not only that, polluted, that if I was to pass on a seed to my sister, the resonation is no longer the same. So you could, the purity of the blood is not there. And with each generation, it degenerates. Because in the royal families, they married their cousins. And there wasn't nothing wrong with our ancestors back then. In fact, in certain parts of the West Indies, they still do that. And in Africa.
I think even going into Egypt, Akhenaten.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So those days are gone because the strain of the human is no longer the same. Plus the blood is no longer the same. The ancient Ramses had gold blood. He had the basis of actually the blood that came out of him was almost like a yellowish gold. And those were the ones that they identified as the Ennead, the ones that came from the strain of humanity that was completely not this strain, where the blood we have is based on iron. That's the lower elements. The blood our ancestors had was based on gold, which meant that we resonated on a whole other frequency, talking to our ancestors on other planets and places like that, which means that we don't cycle the same anymore in consciousness. We're lower in that grade. So we can't do what our ancestors did. In fact, it is said in the legendary books that if we were to see or come face to face with the real ancestors, we'd go mad.
Call them aliens.
Yeah, we call them aliens. Because their eyes, you ever see the way that the Kemites drew eyes? This big, huge thing, that's the way their eyes really were. The eyes came almost to the side of the head. So they didn't have to...
Like the sunglasses that they
Right,
make.
they're the ones they make right now. Why? And so they didn't have to turn their necks, because when you turn your neck, you shut off your carotid artery. Therefore, you can't think correctly. So it was unnecessary. Every time you saw them sit, they would turn to you like this. They would never turn their necks. You never saw them do that. They only did that on the drawings to depict movement.
How does, going back to what we was talking about, I'm sorry, my brother.
No, go ahead.
How does that whole law of attraction concept correlate to the consciousness shift in the 2012 theory?
That's a good question, because that's going to be my lecture tomorrow.
Oh, okay, I'll lay off that then.
Well, it's I can. The law of attraction is.
Well, this tape won't be out till the day of the lecture or after, so.
Okay.
Well, essentially, just to briefly go over it, so I don't kind of tip my hand. We are in the resonance cycle right now, and we're feeling the effects of it. That's why we're here. So, those who have been tasked with the job of opening up certain vestiges in the consciousness of others are now seeing more people who are seeking. I mean, for these two queens to travel from California,
True indeed.
I'm honored.
And the
I'm
sister
going
from Baltimore.
The sister from Baltimore.
I see.
I'm completely blown away, and it's time. The technical parts of it that our ancestors, our Olmec ancestors, put down is what I'm going to talk about tomorrow. And a lot of people was asking me, you remember, Azariah, when are you going to break down the Mayan calendar? Well, I'm going to start on the first levels tomorrow, so that we get an understanding of what our Olmec Mayan ancestors did. They weren't just timekeepers. They were timekeepers on two sides. They were timekeepers for the mundane, how to plant, when to marry, when to have children. But they were also keepers of consciousness. They mapped consciousness as time. And in the cycles I can tell you go back to the beginning. And the beginning cycle for our particular range of consciousness is 16.4 billion years ago. That's when your ancestors, your Mayan ancestors, your Olmec Mayan ancestors clocked humanity. This present strain, this particular programming of consciousness started 16.4 billion years ago at the first harmonic cycle, which is the first or the foundational cycle, which was 16.4 billion years ago, and it cycled down to where we are today. And the end cycle for the ninth underworld, because it goes from the first underworld, which was 16.4 billion years ago, and through 9 cycles of 13 heavens, which I'll explain later, we now come to this point where the Gregorian calendar and the Julian calendar now link up to see that at this particular point, a monumental event is going to take place. It's going to take place at this point as we enter into the rift at a particular spot in the rift, because it's not we didn't do this before. Our ancestors put down on the stone that we entered this rift many times, and they talked about the changes in consciousness. But at this particular time, at this particular point, we are entering like no other time ever. And the ramifications of that is going to be off the chain.
You know, you did a lecture, I think, titled, I can't remember the name of it, but it dealt with Mel Gibson when he did the Christ movie. Then just recently,
The fakest gory ever sold.
yeah, that was it. Yeah, and I forgot the name of the lecture, but it basically covered a lot of the information in that. So here we are with the second movie I think it's the second movie by Gibson called Apocalypto. How does that relate to the Mayan calendar and the whole science of the Mayans?
Yeah, there's somebody has told me, I haven't seen it yet, they're going to clone it for me to see, because I really don't want to go and see it, because I know what they're going to do to it. The European always puts his face in it, because he can't do anything else. He can't do movies based on us, because he thinks nobody will be interested. That's what he's got to be. He'll do a movie until such time. He did respect it, but he brought it to the point where Balboa showed up. So, to that point. But he showed the Mayans, after the influence of the Olmecs, in a state of chaos and madness. And that the reason why they were conducting these serious rituals that they were talking about was because they were dying. And many of them stayed too long. You see, 350 or 750,000 Mayans disappeared in a week from a city that was teeming. Just disappeared. And they don't know how. Well, I can tell you how. They just shifted out of here. But some stayed. Yeah. Yeah. But some stayed. Some shape-shifted. Some became the animals. But what happened was they left. And the ones that stayed back too long because the time cycle for their bloodstream, for their energies, didn't work. It drove them crazy. And what happened was those who began to stay back began to degenerate. They began fighting, cannibalism, headhunting. And most of the headhunting rituals were done on the people who were dying. They killed them because it was a sacrifice so that they didn't suffer to their death. But they thought about this being this ritual of tearing hearts out and so forth. Well, the beheading and the so-called rituals that they did were for them to leave so that their bodies didn't suffer. Because you have to remember, peoples of color did not look at death like white people look at death. Death was freedom from this cycle of imprisonment, which essentially life going back, the true life into the body was the real death. This is death. This is amenta. This body is amenta. And the traveling of the soul in this dead body is the journey of amenta and Heru, resurrecting at the end after death. And this is what they did in the initiation in Kemet while they were in the temples. They would kill the initiate. He would die. And the master would be there waiting for him. And then he would be initiated outside of the body while in the spirit, his soul. And he would be shown his body and say, that's who you are, or who you think you are. This is who you are. And in the spirit, he would be talking to the people. The two of them would be dead, and he would be talking to him. And then the priests who were looking over the ceremony would revive them and bring him back. And he would have the memory of that experience. That was being reborn. That was what they put into the Bible as the ritual of being born again.
Wow. Okay, I'm going to shift gears for a minute and go into what everybody probably wants to know about and hear about is conspiracies. What do you think, first of all, what do you think about the new run for presidency? Will there be another president? Will Giuliani win and we get the whole Nazi thing going on? What's your opinion on what's going to happen?
Well, I don't want to tip my hand because I have some things I'm going to reveal tomorrow. But let's just say we already got the Nazi thing going on.
Right.
More than you know it.
Mm-hmm.
More than anybody really wants to accept.
Mm-hmm.
Which we are going to show with brilliant proof. I did a radio show with the guy who wrote the book Vatican Assassins.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent book.
Yeah.
He has a new version now, third version,
Mm-hmm.
where he breaks down the whole situation. Where I kept telling you that the Pope was the one who gave permission for Islam to practice.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he now comes out with the historical facts that the Pope runs Islam.
Mm-hmm.
So everything we're saying has been vindicated. So when I'm coming out against the three majors. I'm gonna make so many enemies until people wake up.
But do you think there will be a president, or do you?
Yeah, there's going to be. There's already one being created, formulated.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, there is a son.
Will it be the girly man out in California, or?
Yeah, he's being groomed more than you know. And but what's her name was given the okay. Hillary Clinton was given the okay by the Trilateral Commission to become president as well.
Hillary.
So she may, she may end up being someone's vice president.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is that we're moving into the 2008 cycle, and I spoke about 2008 to 2020 is going to be a traumatic period in America because they're already building the wall around Canada and Mexico.
Yeah.
And they're about to, the Chinese army is in California. So we already have the box in, and there's a place, I don't know if you saw my last lecture, where there's an army base where the buildings, building structures are in the form of a swastika. On an army base, the place where they have them, the army base, if you don't see it from the air, you don't see the swastika on the air. But there will be a challenge to the presidency because there's going to be another 9/11. How they're going to do it, we don't know. What I am going to tell you is that they brought the two towers down with two micronuclear bombs. And what that did was to shut the portal that was there with the gold. Using the gold, they created a portal, and it shut the portal down because it began opening up ways for souls to energize. The gold began to energize and enrich the atmosphere, which is what they didn't want. People started waking up ace, deuce, trade. People started giving their money away. In fact, they had to shut that portal down because they found out, which is essentially what the portal was doing, that the so-called baby boom generation, the baby boom generation has been found to be the most magnanimous and giving generation ever. They have given more money and more, what they call,
Those are not
voluntary time.
those are not octogenarians. Those are low.
No, those are the people in the 50s,
Okay.
and those came up to the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
Those people gave more to the society in the form of charity, time, what do you call it, the books, all the things, gave more to society in the form of money and donations than any other generation. That had to shut down because it began to build infrastructures of consciousness that they could not afford to grow, especially when they wanted to maintain the signal frequencies of the lockdown.
Didn't those lights have something to do with the portal? The lights they shot up?
The blue beams, yeah.
Yeah,
Two little blue beams.
yeah.
Had something to do with that?
But
Project Bluebeam is not going to be until, we're going to have to get, Israel is going to have, they're going to have to get, a nuclear exchange between Israel is going to have to happen, and then Bluebeam is going to come. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
do you think that it's going to be more like a covert, undercover type operation as far as the concentration camps, or do you think they're going to just come right in and just go to war with the American streets?
They're going to come right in. That's what we're preparing for. In fact, it's going to be, see, the thing about this special time is that it's happening all at once, and the Illuminati are going to take advantage of natural catastrophes based upon the shift of paradigm to make their moves. There have been maybe about 12 astronomers were assassinated because of what they were telling about what's getting ready to hit.
And they shut down that major magazine called, it was a magazine that dealt with astrology that the white folks buy and all in the metaphysical. They shut it, that's gone.
Quickly.
Yeah.
Because
I'm pretty sure some of those writers were part of that.
yeah, and they were, again, consciousness is under attack, which is what I'm going to be speaking about tomorrow, which is why I've gauged my talk on hyperdimensional combat. If we are not thinking about hyperdimensional warfare, then we might as well be the cannon fodder that they have planned for us. Because we have to learn that your mind is the battleground today. And until we understand how the mind is being attacked, we do not have the ability to create the countermeasures in order for us to teach our children what to expect. If your thoughts are not scrutinized as you would a tactician, then you will not be thinking them, they'll be thinking you.
Should we do these things in a more, like another brother says, more covert and clandestine?
Yeah.
Not out in the open,
No.
like.
We only need a few. See, the thing is, there's only a few people that screwed up the planet. Right? Not a few that goes on. There's only a few that combat it. So you have to understand, it is a battle between the gods. And the gods could be anyone who have a knowledge, and that's what makes you a god, knowledge, essentially. And if you accrue knowledge, that's the problem too. If you remember, if you saw my Book of the Earth, I spoke about something called accretion. And that if you do not intensify your accretion abilities, that is, to be able to absorb the dimensional bands of the specific dimension that you're in. Right now we are in third density, and there are certain wavelengths, standing wave bands and energies that maintain that third density. If you are not, by your nature, absorbing or at least increasing your own natural energies from all of the elements that were created from the singular element. Here's the other secret. The foundational harmonic, 16.4 billion years ago, foundational harmonic was struck by the one hydrogen atom. From the one come the many. Well, there is only one element. In school, they're just teaching everyone about these 88 or 86 or 102 or 107 elements.
Periodic table.
There's no such thing as the periodic table. That is an abstract. There is only one element, hydrogen. And that is the way the universe is constructed. If we do not understand and understand that principle, then we do not understand that until all of the variations of the hydrogen that has become life, until you begin to reabsorb them at the level that you are on and increase your personal power from the accretion process of bringing those to you, through your breathing, through your thinking, and through just the way that you set your mind to become part of all in the one, then you are going to stay stuck in this particular dimensional cycle of third density. It is through accretion of all of the energy bands of the third density that you raise to the fourth. And until accretion becomes an understandable science, you cannot move out of the dimension, because everything that you're doing is in conjunction with the illusion. You're participating with all the different variations on the one theme. And with your distraction to the variations, you don't understand the theme.
Now, speaking of hydrogen, in third density, you're saying that hydrogen is the main source of all energy of all.
Thanks to Dr. Uyibo, I was even more enlightened to that effect.
Now, is there a possibility that there is something called like anti-hydrogen that produces a different type of...
Yeah, there are particles and antiparticles. Antiparticles are essentially what constitute the barriers between universes. And it is to harmonize with the particle-antiparticle harmonics of antiparticle-particle energies that gives you the tuning, or the laser-like tuning, to harmonize to the next level. So particles spin in variables. So when they spin, the orientation, the angle of their spin gives you the perceptual point of reference. So as a particle is spinning, or if you're in a reference point where the particles are spinning at one particular angle, your consciousness is seeing one thing. But then when you become part of the whole and you begin to go through the accretion process, you have a choice of the angle to which you wish to participate. And that's how the Mayans disappeared. That's how your ancestors went from one level to the next. They shifted at a 90-degree angle at the spin of the particle, and then boom, disappeared. And they were living on a whole other density.
Okay, I have a few very simple questions that I want to ask you. Definitions of certain words for the public to understand the rest of the metaphysical tapes and the things that we've all been talking about. And the first word is tachyon. Could you explain to us what tachyon is?
Well, I'm not too good on the technical parts of it, but I know that it's a force that is created based upon the stirring, again, of the particles and the atoms. And it creates an attractive field that, once created, you could bring rain. In fact, tachyon cycles are created by dancing. You can actually, the Native Americans, when they go out into the field to bring rain, specific steps in a particular pattern sets up an energy vortex that is a tachyon field. And that tachyon field then begins to widen the more you dance in that circle. You notice that Indian dancing it looks like they're doing something that's oh, okay, well I can learn that. But what they've done is a specific science. They're setting up a specific wavelength, or they are changing the energy dynamics, or creating a vortex by their dancing, and in incorporating all the energies in that one field, it creates a tachyon field that begins to rise up, and that tachyon field begins to affect the atoms in the air. And before you know it, moisture in the air begins to accumulate around the tachyon field, and before you know it, rain.
Wow.
That's a question. How would you like something like that to tap dancing? Because I tap dance, and I noticed that like different steps and different combinations of steps kind of trigger consciousness.
Yeah.
Just trigger thoughts.
Well,
It's like just the rhythm of it being in tune,
Yeah.
foundation.
Well, when you're tap dancing, you're using two sides of your brain. So tap dancing is another way of doing acupressure. And when you hit, you create certain vibrations that go directly up to the kundalini. And the kundalini now is giving you, the more you tap, the more your brain sends signals to what to do in the tap. So sometimes there's a step. Yeah, it sets you up. Now it opens up a field of awareness that allows a elemental to come in. It may be a water elemental. It may be a fire elemental. But the step changes to which element comes in.
Yeah, different steps and different combinations have a totally different feel.
Right, that's because you're inviting another elemental consciousness into you. So if it's an air elemental, it's just this feeling of euphoria, and you can feel your body taking over. If it's fire, it's determined. You feel it. If it's water, it's more languid and you're a little bit more energy, feminized in your energy. So each one, tap dancing brings in, and Gregory Hines did that most efficiently because of his interpretive tap. His interpretive tap was him, and I would watch him. He would be taking in elements, and the elements would tell his foot what to do. And that's the secret of great dancers. They flow through the 4 elements.
I've also noticed that it's like the silent beat is what's really hitting. Like when you hit, when you actually hear the sound, that's the one point where you're not moving.
That's the antiparticle.
When you're actually, all of the motion is when you're not making any sound.
The
It's the
antiparticle.
hit is the only time when you're not even, is when you're motionless.
That's the
So
antiparticle.
everything is in the motion.
That's the antiparticle, responding to the particle.
Mm.
So when you dance, you create the particle. When there's that movement that makes no movement, or you don't hear the next movement, that's the antiparticle filling in that spot.
Okay.
Yeah, there's more I want to talk about going back to the whole concentration thing and all like that. But before I go there, I do want to continue to get some of the terms that we use in the lectures so that people could clearly understand everything we're talking about. The next word I would like to give you is energy.
Well, energy, how can I say it? It's life. It's the expression that gives you evidence of life. In other words, energy essentially is the evidence that life exists and that life is in movement. Energy is the extraction of the flow of wave energies and centralizing that flow into an object that expresses the fact that that flow of wave energy and form has been consolidated. So energy is evidence. That's all it is. It's evidence of life.
Can you have too much energy? Because sometimes I feel like I'm about
Might explode, right?
Well, that's
Yeah.
probably because, and I don't want to out you, is because your liver.
Ooh,
Yeah. If you have too much energy, it's an overactive liver.
but I've been like this all my life.
Yeah.
Since I was
Yeah.
born. I mean, even when I
Yeah.
came out, my mom said I was pretty much like
Yeah.
dancing.
Yeah, the heart and liver.
Hmm.
That's why some of the best singers have bad livers. Or they have bad kidneys.
And how would we
Bad
remedy?
pancreases.
How would we remedy that to a certain degree? As
Well, I
best
would
as we
take consultation because I don't know what the mitigating circumstances are around it.
Okay.
I don't like giving consultation. Take that, no.
All right. Next word is frequency.
Well, it is the level with which energy pulses from wave to particle.
Okay.
And the level to which it peaks is all.
We want the people even just coming in to kind of understand these things.
So it's hard for me to do that. Frequency is the word. Frequent or not. It's how frequent a
How
specific
often.
pulse, how often the energy is given.
Right.
Right. How consistent.
Yes. A word we used earlier, resonance.
Resonance is, wow, I don't know how to do it. I'm going to make sure that I'm saying it so that people can understand.
Movement, I guess.
Yeah, resonance is when a force is placed into particularly an object. Resonance would be the time frame that the energy placed into the object would force the object to move at a specific rate. So the movement of the object at a specific rate and the event of the rate of that object moving is called resonance. So how the time it cycles down from the time the energy flows through the material, makes it move, the amount of energy that sustains it at a specific vibration would be the resonance.
Polarity, which we know you've actually done a lecture on polarity.
Right.
In a simple term, as simple as you could put it.
It is the work of Ma'at.
Mhm.
Polarity is essentially what the unitary becomes in its first separation as duality. It becomes gender at the lower energies. Polarity is simply the operation of the same force at two levels of vibration. One with yin energies, which is doesn't seem like it's vibrating, and one that's vibrating at another range of another energy. And then it sets up a consistency where it doesn't fall back to the center as one. So polarity would be where the one goes to a point from harmony, it splits into two, and then at the point or juncture where the two has separated and now is in harmony with one another, that we call polarity.
And the word soul.
Could I just
Yes, go ahead, sister.
interject there? Positive or negative, would that have anything to do with what I had?
Yeah, positive and negative are two sides of the same force. One is active in its own sense from the center as itself. As in other words, if positive energy means it's moving at its own frequency and vibration that does not overlap or override the frequency that the other side is vibrating at, when it is vibrating in a counter. So remember when I say particle and antiparticle? Well, the particle would be spinning in one direction, that would have one polarity. The other particle spinning in the other direction would be spinning in on the other side. But when they come together, they harmonize as one. So that's why a lot of people who talk and say, well, you know, to be gay and homosexual means that you're going back to the one. Well, you're not. What you're actually doing essentially is you're just a freak of nature in that sense, because the harmonization, they say that the one is unity. Yes, one is unity in the realm of unity, but in the realm of duality, two is unity. See? So you have they play with your mind when they tell you that I'm dealing metaphysically as a homosexual. I'm dealing in the realm of unity. Yeah, well, you're out of your neighborhood, because the true unity in duality is the polarity.
Do we misappropriate within the language as far as juxtaposing good and bad with negative and positive?
Yeah, that's a good point. Negative and positive being good or bad. Good, positive being good, which means we all yang out, and negative and bad means we don't rest, we don't take time to reflect or nothing like that. So negative is not bad because it's the feminine principle. Positive is not good because it's the masculine principle. It is the harmonization of these two energies as we raise our yang energies to be in balance with the yin energies. A real man, for instance, would never want to attack a woman. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
A real man doesn't even sense that because his nature is to protect her.
Mhm.
His nature is to want to make sure she's all right.
Mhm.
He would have to have reverse polarities to hate her because he is a woman.
Exactly.
That's right. In that same vein, excuse me,
Yeah.
clockwise versus.
Counterclockwise.
Yes.
Same thing. Counterclockwise is just essentially the orientation of the spin, which is essentially what they've done with Tesla's technology.
Right.
To learn how to travel to space or to, matter of fact, they have some terrible weapons now
Mm-hmm.
that they're introducing in Iraq.
Yeah. Okay, two more words. One is soul and the other is organ.
Soul and organ is another form of oxygen, just putting another molecule together and shifting its spin orientation. So it's good because it purifies the atmosphere of any hard particle electrons, which is good. You can put it into the environment if you want to clean it up, take out the what they call the positive ions and things that tend to bring energy
Now,
down.
let me just stop you right there. Why would they call the things that does so much damage to you, why are they calling that positive? Is it based on that polarity?
Well, yeah, the positive ions essentially tend to destroy.
Yeah.
the other
Well,
nature.
why would they,
Because they're the more active.
yeah.
They're the more active in their dynamic. They don't stay true they're random.
Mhm.
So they don't stay true to an orbit.
Right, because anyone reading any books on Wilhelm Reich or Orgon would
Yeah.
think that when he says negative ions, they would think that was something bad.
No,
Yeah.
But it's actually good,
That's
right.
our mentality. Matter of fact, you get in the shower.
Mhm.
Once you get in the shower, you have negative ions because of the moving water.
Right.
Negative ions are created by the movement. In fact, that's what creates movement is the movement of the sun and the movement of the planet through the atmosphere is an electrical energy that creates the magnetic. So essentially the movement of water by its movement creates magnetic fields that create the negative ions that make you feel invigorated. The positive ions, which essentially saturate the atmosphere during times when there's a lot of moisture in it, when it's very humid, that's when it starts bringing you down. And when you're eating certain foods, oxygen does the same thing, which is why I say that we did not just breathe in an oxygen environment. We had carbon dioxide that we used to breathe, carbon dioxide like the plants. But again, we lost that particular ability.
Can we get it back?
Not in this present cycle. This is an ending cycle.
Well, the 2012 cycle, will that?
2012 cycle will end off where it began. But those who begin the cycle, the seed, based on the mental framework that you're in, you will be conditioning the seed for tomorrow. Which is why the children of today, if they're not being taught who they are, they'll assume by who it is that programs them to believe who they are. And we'll have problems now dealing with that situation. But there's a whole, let me tell you, it's going to look bleak because of who we are. We're bringing in this. We're in a very auspicious time. This is a wonderful time to celebrate an end. We wanted an end and it's here. But it's going to be traumatic. It's going to come down. It's not going to be everything we expect. There's going to be trials, tribulations. It's going to be like Apocalypto. That's why he created it.
That word uses.
Yes, bro.
Difference between the spirit and the soul. A lot of people get it misconstrued.
Yeah, spirit essentially is just the movement of the energies, the life force, the intelligence within the life force. It's just simply it. Spirit is another form of matter. And everybody says, well, no, there's matter and then there's spirit. No, spirit is matter. And that I had to get that, because a lot of my students, they couldn't get that. They think it's something different. Anything that becomes organized in consciousness is matter. Okay? And the soul is a template of the individuated consciousness. That individuated consciousness that feeds from the source of its first beginning. First order beings are the ones with souls. The second order beings, the one that's living off of us now, they don't have the souls. They have soul signatures that have potential areas, but that turns them into vampires. Vampires have soul signatures, they don't have souls. And that's why they need us and our consciousness activities in order to live. These are the psychic vampires that I teach about.
That's deep.
Anyone who has questions?
It'll
Okay.
come back with it.
We got 10 minutes. I have quite a lot of questions, so if anyone...
Yeah.
I know someone who we were talking the other day, and she's never ever had an orgasm during penetration. Is that
Sorry.
normal?
Sorry to hear that.
No,
Yeah.
It's not normal.
no, it's not normal. How is she shaped? Does
Um,
she tell you?
oh, you mean, oh, down.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
Okay. Sometimes women, and men know this, sometimes women are to the back or to the front.
Her position?
Yeah. No, the position of the vagina.
Okay,
The way it sits. It's the yonis, they have different names for yonis.
okay.
And they have different names because they sit different ways.
Mhm.
Some sit further back between the legs to the back towards the buttocks.
Okay.
Some sit forward, so the mons and the vagina open is. Some men can have penetration with her standing up, you know, because it's right there. Now, depending on where it is,
I'll ask her.
that could also be an effect.
Right.
The other thing is that she has a block because she may have had a very bad experience with that, having to do with her mother or people who taught her that that area was not clean, this sort of things. She could have been raped. There are a lot of psycho-spiritual things that I usually have consultations with sisters about. And it usually goes down into something. See, a woman shuts down if you do not if you do not activate her feelings first. So she may have been one who is intellectual. She may be traumatized, that's one thing, but she may be an intellect. She may want to intellectually solve a problem, but she doesn't want to solve, she doesn't want to surrender to her feelings because she's afraid of it. A lot of women are afraid of sex because of the feelings that are initiated by that. And that feeling sometimes, and a woman who does not want to feel weak, sometimes does not feel for sex, because sexuality causes a woman to become completely vulnerable. And in that vulnerability, if she's feeling like she's in danger, or she cannot release, or she cannot feel safe with the man she's with, and if he wants to try different experimentations, see, a woman must become putty. She can't demand, what do you call it? She can demand for a while, but then if he doesn't, and she's only been dealing with men who just do what she says, that also is a turn on. Because women want to be commanded, dominated, and all that. And I don't care what the sisters out there
Sure,
think.
that's over there.
Women want to feel that, because there's a lot of, matter of fact, most of the women that I deal with are these power women who are suffering because they got so much power now. Men do everything they say. They don't like it. They hate it. They don't like that, because that's not their nature. Women are command takers. They're not command givers.
So basically she has to relax a bit, right?
Well, relax is a big word, because some people don't know what that means. Maybe it's different things for different people. So her whole thing has to be, I do consultations if she wants. If she wants, she can get in contact with me. In fact, I'll leave my number, 718-264-9497. And if anybody wishes to deal with consultations in natural healing, consultations where they want to deal with getting vaccination exemption packages so they don't have to take vaccinations, they can call me at that number. If they want marriage counseling, we do that as well. Anything doing with so-called cancers and diseases that they tell you that they can. If your body is not racked, not by diseases, but is not racked by pharmaceutical poisons, then you have a chance. So don't worry about cancer, because cancer doesn't kill. None of that kills. No disease kills. It is when the medical priesthood